In the 2021 offseason, Jimbo Fisher had some comments saying, when I see Nick Saban, I'm going to beat him. Then he did. He also locked up, at least for the early signing period, the number one class. Looking at what the Aggies can do in 2022, bringing in a lot of great recruits, a five-star quarterback, bringing back some great running backs and receivers, but also losing some key guys to the draft this year. But they got some pretty interesting games on the schedule. Let's look at it real quick, folks. Woo! Hey, what's going on, everybody? Christian Ballard here, Ballard Sports Media. Hey, do me a quick favor, folks. Hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button if you're new. Also, hit that bell. You get notified when I go live or post a video, just like this one. Recently hit 500 subs. Thank you so much for all the love and the support. I don't do it for fame or popularity, but you always want to grow your channel. If you have a YouTube channel and you don't want to grow it, or you say you don't, I think you're pretty stupid for it. I mean, who wouldn't want to grow it? Let's keep growing this amazing BSM crew, as I call it, all the people that are involved that help make it what it is. Some key guys out there like Ugga Boy, TikTok Chess Hall, Slim Shady Canes, a lot of great people like BVD as well that come on here a lot and that are well known that help me to just keep going with it, man. It's a lot of work that goes into it. But again, I love and appreciate everyone involved that's here on a regular basis. That being said, let's go ahead and look at it here, man. 2022 Texas A&M Aggies preview. Again, going through the Power 5, going by conference this offseason so far. We've looked at Georgia and Alabama. Now we're going to look at a team that had a pretty interesting season. Didn't get off to the best start, but they made up for it really with, a pretty good win streak towards the middle of the season. Dropped the last, after the bye week, I mean, they dropped two of the last four games. But real quick, look back at 2021 for Texas A&M, an 8-4 season for them. Had a bowl game with Wake Forest that was ultimately canceled because they opted out because of COVID. Rutgers had replaced them in the Gator Bowl. But 2021, they go 8-4. They beat a team like Alabama, getting an upset. A lot of things happened in that moment. A&M was unranked. Alabama had 100-plus wins against unranked opponents, had a really good streak going. It was the first time since 2007 that had happened. Also, Nick Saban had never lost to a former assistant coach. Jimbo Fisher took care of that, being a former offensive coordinator and assistant coach for him back, I think, at LSU in like the 02-03 seasons when Saban was there. Jimbo Fisher, of course, has won a title with Florida State. He's looking to obviously, I mean, every coach wants to, but Jimbo Fisher, he's a heck of a recruiter, heck of an offensive-minded guru of a coach. Does he have what it takes to maybe take A&M to the promised land and win a national title? I think so. I think it just comes down to being consistent and getting just the right type of setup for the season, honestly. And, I think they're capable of doing that. I don't know about this next year. We'll get to their 2022 schedule in a second. But again, you look at this past year, they had it going great. Kent State, at Colorado, New Mexico. Okay, great defense to start out. But again, they're not playing that good of quality competition. But then they get into conference play. Arkansas, they lost 20-10. Arkansas got off to a hot start of the season. Hold on. And they fell off a little bit, but a good start for the Aggies, 3-0, but then back-to-back losses with Mississippi State and Arkansas. Then they go and they beat Alabama. Nick Saban made a good point on his radio show. If you remember the video I uploaded of him going off about nobody wants to win more than the players, he kind of mentioned the A&M game, saying they lost 2 games in a row, and that makes a team like that dangerous, especially in the SEC. And I would think that he's right. I think those two losses kind of fueled, A&M. One of them being neutral site, one of them being at home. It was close. They had a chance against the Bulldogs, but then they beat Alabama. Then they have this hot game win streak. They go beat Missouri. They beat South Carolina. They get a bye week, and then they get a pretty good win over the Auburn Tigers. Then they lose at Ole Miss only by 10, beat Prairie View A&M, expected. Then they lose by a field goal to LSU. So not the best of seasons, but I think winning, overall winning 8 games, going 8-4, you kind of split it down the middle, 4-4 in SEC play. And I mean, you beat the number one. Alabama was undefeated. Bryce Young, the eventual Heisman winning quarterback. You beat the number one team. That's pretty impressive. That's good. I would say A&M should not hang their heads on this past season. And I think that if they had played in the game against Wake Forest, if they hadn't opted out or quit because of COVID related issues, I think they win that game, honestly. But again, overall, you look at last year, again, 8-4, losing streak of 1 to end the season. They could have had a win streak of 1. I think they would have beat Wake Forest. I think it would have been a competitive game. But again, that wasn't the case. But they go 8-4, 4-4 in SEC play, and they get it taken care of. That being said, let's go ahead and get back to it, folks. You look at, real quick, the 2022 Texas A&M preview. They did lose a few key players, right? Some to the portal and then 3 going to the draft. But also, I would say that you got to give them props because currently, and nothing's official because we still have signing day part 2 in February, currently they have the number 1 class for the 2022 recruiting period, picking up quite a few 5-stars, some good defensive tackles. Connor Wakeman, I'm excited to see this 5-star quarterback they bring in. Was this I'm curious what it is, because there's always a pitch, right? There's always a moment in a season. Was it that Bama win? And Jimbo said a few things like, hey, this is where you come and win big games in football. Was that a selling point to recruits? Did they look at that regardless of how the season might have ended or gone for them at the beginning? Did they look at that Alabama game and say, you know what? He gets the right guys on the field. It's a winning program. This is a coach that's won a national title. Go back to Florida State real quick. Is that a selling point? Is that a selling point for Jimbo Fisher? Honestly, let me just go ahead and say this, not to jump past 2022. I would not be surprised if Texas A&M continues to recruit greatly the next few years, competes for the SEC West, and maybe at some point gets in the college football playoff. Remember, last year, which, I know it was a COVID year, but in 2020, they were a one-loss team that played a 9-10 game schedule like any other SEC team. They were a one-loss team and had a good enough resume. The only thing they had was a 52-24 loss to Alabama. That was the only flaw on their schedule. And they got robbed of the playoff. Now, I say that lightly because I do think Notre Dame also deserve that spot. But A&M was like right there. They ended up being number 5, knocking on the door, right? So they can get in position. And again, I know 2020 was whatever. I still think in a normal year, A&M, you put the right players out there. You got a great coaching staff for Coach Fisher. And the offensive talent that he can recruit, and he's recruited greatly on defense too. He can put some guys out there. You look at some key losses too. You're going to lose. Speaking of defense, I found 4 players that stick out to me. Marvin Leo is a defensive tackle. Big, strong, very fast, can get through the offensive line and pressure a quarterback. It is the leader of the defensive line last year. It will hurt, but they have some guys out there to step up. He was a 5-star recruit. He's very fast and physical at the line. He's going to go to the draft. Isaiah Spiller had 1,011 yards and 6 touchdowns this past season. It's not a whole lot, but still over 1,000 yards rushing in a season. Very, very fast. Had a good O-line to help him out. They threw the ball a lot, so I guess that kind of takes away from the 6 touchdowns. He's gone to the draft. Jalen Weidemeyer, a tight end, declared back in December on the 4th or whatever. He had 4 TDs this past season, 40 receptions for 515 yards. Now, Zach Calzada, a quarterback that beat Alabama, by the way, he's out, but he's transferring to Auburn, replacing Bo Nix, as Bo Nix is transferred to Oregon. But who's going to be the quarterback for A&M? That's a big question. I really don't know. I'm going to take a guess and say it could be Connor Wakeman. It could be Haynes King. Zach Calzada is going to be out. The next man up will be 5-star recruit from last year and Haynes King. Or it might be, and I'm honestly excited to see this guy, Connor Wakeman. He's a 5-star recruit. He's very fast. He's got a strong arm. I'm excited to see what he can do. That all being said, moving right along, you look at their schedule real quick of what they have this year, and I see 2 possible trap games, but we'll get to that in a minute. So they open up pretty easily. Sam Houston, App State at home, back-to-back home games. You really start out with 3 straight home games. Sam Houston, App State, Miami Hurricanes. Alabama beat them in the opener last year handily. We'll get to that Miami game here in a second. Play Arkansas. That's a big rivalry there. That's always a neutral field. They played at the Cowboys AT&T Stadium. Go to Mississippi State. Go to Alabama. Take a bye week. Then you got a pretty interesting stretch here in the SEC. At South Carolina, play Ole Miss, play Florida, at Auburn, UMass, and then rival in LSU at Kyle Field. Remember, 7 overtimes a few years ago. Pretty interesting game. And then if they win the West, which I think is a possibility, I'm not going to I wouldn't hold my breath on that this year, Aggie fans, although anything's possible. I think y'all are poised to have a good season. If you win the West, you can hit Atlanta for the SEC title to potentially face the Georgia Bulldogs. Overall, what are the key games? I'm going to say that App State game. App State is not a bad program. It's not even a bad team. They got Chase Bryce, who is a former Duke and Clemson transfer quarterback. It's a good team that can get upsets. But be realistic, A&M should handle them handily. Like, are we going to make fun of them for losing to App State? Hell yeah, we're going to make fun of them. But I'll say this, Sean Clark has done a pretty decent job so far. He replaces Eli Drinkwitz, who's at Missouri. App State's been known to pull up upsets here or there and pull it in close games. They're one of those teams out there, I think, aren't they in the Mountain West or something? But they're not a bad team. You know, they can make bowl games. They can pull upsets, and you never know what you're going to get out of them. Don't underestimate Appalachian State. But moving right along, I don't think it's going to happen. I think they'll get that. Miami, I mean, it's a new head coach in Mario Cristobal. You know, Manny Diaz wasn't bad, but he wasn't the guy that was it was not going anywhere. You know, one year it's a good year, the next it's bad. You just never knew. It just was so – like, consistency is good for a coach and record-wise. Like, but if you're consistently staying at like a 6-6, 7-5 range or 8-4 like Miami has, like they can make bowl games. They also had some 5-7 in there a little bit where they didn't quite have enough to make a bowl game. But like, you know, consistency is they're consistently good. They're consistently improving, even if they might take a step back a year or two. But consistently staying at the same record year in and year out where it's not getting worse, but it's also not going anywhere. They just had to get rid of Manny Diaz. I think Manny Diaz could end up going somewhere to coach, but I don't know if Miami is the right place for him. But I do think it's very interesting, the hire for Mario Cristobal, who comes in from Oregon. And again, we'll get to the ACC at some point, and I'll talk more about Miami. Mario Cristobal coming from Oregon, Dan Lanning going over there from Georgia. But again, that could be a trap game. I mentioned the trap games. I really only see two. Miami there, you know, when you look at it, Miami starts out pretty easy too. It could give them some momentum as it's a week 3 matchup, and it could be an undefeated. And both these teams could end up being ranked. I mean, A&M could be 2-0, Miami could be 2-0, and even if Miami's only like 24 or 25 in the nation, they could still be ranked. Maybe that's some momentum, and maybe they could get an upset. It's possible. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's a trap game. I also look at Auburn on November 12th. Now, Auburn always plays teams like A&M pretty close. You always get excited for that. You never know what you're going to get. And the fact that it's at Jordan-Hare in November, late in the season is when they get the big crowds, get the stadium rocking. Again, we'll get to Auburn soon. I don't know what their schedule is going to look like. Is it going to be better for Harsin in year 2? I think you could see some improvement, but you just never know. But Jordan-Hare in November, I'm telling you, can kind of be rough for some SEC teams. I mean, they gave Alabama some fits this past year in the Iron Bowl. Georgia had that kind of season. They just kind of went in there and blew them out. But then again, Georgia actually played them in October because Auburn had to cry and move the game. But that could be a trap game there. Maybe they beat teams like South Carolina. Let's say this scenario happens. You take the bye week. Let's say you lose to Bama. Let's say that's hypothetically your first loss. You lose to Bama. You take the bye week. You're coming off a loss. You need to rest up. You go to South Carolina. You beat South Carolina. Ole Miss you beat, right? You're getting hyped up. You're getting prepared. You're beating teams at home. You get Florida. And then you get comfortable. You're on a 3-game win streak. After the loss to Bama, shake it off, right? Okay, who cares? We lost to Bama. We took a bye week. We won 3 in a row. Great. And they're all SEC. Not so fast. Don't get too ahead of yourselves. Auburn could get you. I'm not saying they will, but that could be a trap game there. It really could. Overall, I'll just get to the basics of it here. Again, Miami and Auburn are the 2 games that I see where they'll probably be favored in them, but it could be an upset or a trap where, and it's funny we say trap games like, oh, we might see something that we don't see coming. Well, if you say that it could be an upset, don't say that when it happens, oh, I didn't see it coming. All that says is, hey, the team that's not supposed to win this game could end up winning this game. I'm not saying they're going to lose to these teams. In fact, I'll just go ahead and be honest with you, go ahead and give my prediction. I don't think that they will. I think A&M is going to be really good defensively. I think with the quarterback situation and everything they bring back on offense, great offensive line and everything, great coaching by Jimbo Fisher, I think they get it done this year. I think they have a good run in a good position. And again, I don't hold me to this because, they could lose a couple games. They could end up going 10-2. I'm going to make a bold claim and say they run the table, go 11-1, and go to only have a loss in Tuscaloosa to the Crimson Tide. It's hard to beat the same team 2 times in a row, and you better believe that Nick Saban and Alabama will be on a mission this year after losing the title game. But also, I'm sure they won't forget what happened this year in October, losing by a field goal to Seth Small, which I give the Aggies and Jimbo credit for it. Doesn't upset me too much at this point. But I guarantee you it's still a little bit on the mind of those players coming back and Nick Saban. They're going to get prepared. And I think Alabama's obviously going to win that game. But outside of that, you could drop LSU. Maybe Brian Kelly gets off to a rough start for the Tigers. Maybe he picks it up late in the season, though. Auburn could be a trap game. But if I'm being honest, I think the Aggies are going to be better than every team on this schedule outside of Alabama. Is it possible that they beat Alabama second year? Shoot, I don't know. Is it possible they drop what would you be willing to bet, though? More. that they end up going, let's say, dropping 2 games, 3 games, 4 games, or going 12-0. What's more likely in that situation? I'm getting too far off track and ahead of myself. But overall, again, like I say, I think this could be another good year for the Aggies. If they're, let's say they go 11-1, their only losses to Alabama. Could this be the way they get in the playoffs? Or will they get robbed once again out of the 4th playoff spot this year? Hypothetically speaking. I don't know. But anyway, that all being said, I'm going to just leave you with this. 11-1, and their only loss to Alabama. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a 10-2, 9-3. Nothing would really surprise me too much, but I just think that they're in a good position to win a lot of games this year. Again, you still got a guy in Haynes King at quarterback. You bring in that Connor Wegman guy. Zach Calzada transfers out, but you got a young guy to work with, 5-star recruit. You bring a lot of great you bring a lot of great players back. Aaron Hansford, Leon O'Neal on the defense, to name a few that were really, really good for them. I'm going to say 11-1, only lost to Alabama. But again, they could drop a game like Miami or Auburn. But I think they're just going to be overall better built to win games like that. I think this is going to be a great team to look out for. They're recruiting really well. They currently have the number 1 class. They could possibly finish with it next month on National Signing Day. Finish right there at number 1. But again, we'll have to wait and see. But I love you guys. Jesus loves you. Hey, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. If you're new to the channel, I do all kinds of college football, NFL. I would be doing baseball, but I don't know what's going on, man. They're shutting it down. It sucks. Going to get into some March Madness action when that rolls around too. It's a big month for sports fans. I love that. I love college basketball. The Tide are doing pretty good, but some tough losses lately. But they could still keep rolling and rocking, and maybe Nate Oates could get us further this time than the Sweet 16. But again, we'll have to wait and see. Love you guys. Jesus loves you. Like, comment, and subscribe. All that good stuff right here to Ballard Sports Media. And until next time, folks, Ballard Sports Media is checking out. Love you guys. God bless. And as always, roll Tide. See ya.
All that says, you about to roll with the Tide.